Please don't get mad at me for saying this, but with the exception of his divinity and the fact that he was raised from the dead, Jesus, when he was on this earth, never really said or did anything unique. Not to get upset. During this period of the prophets, you see a lot of teachings and actions, including miracles, that are performed by prophets, which will then be something that Jesus will either say or do during his ministry. That's all I'm trying to say. That's all. Now, case in point, today we're talking about Elijah. On our next episode, we're talking about Elijah's successor, Elisha. And you'll see that they have a lot in common with Jesus. Elijah, Elisha, and Jesus all raised the dead. Elijah, Elisha, and Jesus multiplied food. Both Elijah and Elisha provide water. Elijah ends a drought. Elisha makes poisoned water clean. Does Jesus provide us with the miracle of water? Well, technically he provides us with a life-giving water. A water where you'll never have to come back to the well again.
Sir, give me that water.
Both Elijah and Elisha part the Jordan River. If you haven't caught on, that's kind of trendy. Joshua's already done that, and don't forget Moses parted the Red Sea before that. In the case of these water stories, Jesus doesn't need to part. He can walk right on top of it. So Jesus' miracle does, in a sense, trump these prophet miracles. Connecting that to the last example I just stated, Elijah and Elisha provide people with drinkable water. Jesus provides us with a life-giving eternal water. So Jesus' miracles do trump those of the prophets. Both Elijah and Jesus ascend into heaven at the end of their ministries. All three of these men healed the sick. Elijah and Jesus fasted in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights.
40 days and 40 nights.
All three of these men spoke authoritatively in the name of God and proved that God's power trumps that of other gods. So all I'm trying to say is that Jesus was not the only one to have performed miracles. Elijah and Elisha are known more for their miracle doing than actually what they said. Now that's a little bit ironic because both of these men, of course, are speaking prophets. And when you think of prophet, you think of someone who is prophesizing, a preacher. Well, Elijah realized that actions speak louder than words. And what was going on in Elijah's time is that Elijah was a prophet in the northern kingdom of Israel trying to dissuade the Israelites from worshiping the Baal. Yeah, the Baal's back. Now again, Baal or Baal typically refers to a localized god. Often that local god was a fertility god. One of my favorite stories involving Elijah occurs in 1 Kings chapter 18. And it's essentially a contest. It's a contest of the battle of the gods. Elijah goes to King Ahab.
Captain Ahab has to go hunt his whale.
King Ahab is the king of the northern kingdom. And what he's doing is actually leading the Israelites astray to worship the Baals. Elijah's name, fun fact, I haven't done that in a while. Elijah's name literally means my God is Yahweh. And that's kind of interesting because Elijah's name reflects his primary message. He is going to the northern kingdom and proclaiming that God is Yahweh. God is not Baal. Ahab says, prove it. Elijah dares the prophets of Baal to lay out a sacrifice for their God to light on fire. And the prophets of Baal cry out, "Oh, Baal, answer us!" Yet the fire will not light. And one of the funniest pieces of scriptures that I've encountered in a while occurs at chapter 18, verse 27. At noon, Elijah mocked them, saying, "Cry out loud, cry louder. Surely he is a god."
Don't call me Shirley.
Either he is meditating or has wandered away, or he is on a journey, or perhaps sleeping. and must be awakened. Then they cried out loud, and was their custom, they cut themselves with swords and lances until the blood gushed out all over them. But there was no voice, no answer, no response. So here's Elijah mocking the prophets of Baal.
Don't mock me.
Cry louder. Maybe he can't hear you. Maybe he's asleep. Maybe he's on a journey.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
Cry louder, prophets of Baal, but to no avail. It's now Elijah's turn. Elijah takes 12 stones and then 4 buckets of water and pours those 4 buckets of water on the sacrifice 3 times. The 12, of course, calls to mind the 12 tribes of Israel. You have the 4 buckets 3 times. There's also the number 12. 4 is a number in the Bible referring to humanity. 3 is a number referring to divinity. When you have 3 working with 4, you get 12. Okay, so God and humans working together is essentially the meaning of the number 12 in Scripture. In short, he makes the sacrifice unlightable. It's drenched in water. But then all of a sudden, fire comes down from heaven, lights the sacrifice on fire. A bolt of lightning. Yahweh truly is that from which all things come. Yahweh trumps Baal. And all the prophets of Baal start bowing down in reverence to Yahweh, and Elijah responds by having all the prophets of Baal murdered.
See you around, Ahab.
So this story, very reminiscent of the 10 plague story where Yahweh is versing the Egyptian gods, who is the true God, and once again, Yahweh triumphs over Baal. Another fun fact about this story is that the chapter begins with Yahweh inflicting a drought upon Israel. And what's interesting about that note is that Baal is a god of fertility. And obviously, for crops to be fertile, you need water. So you can actually make a case before this sacrificial fire story even happens, Yahweh has already won this battle against Baal because he took away the water that allows the crops to be prosperous. Yahweh truly is that from which all things come, not Baal. So is Elijah successful in ridding the north of Baal worship? No. No. And neither, spoiler alert, will his successor Elisha. They fail. Despite these constant miracles to prove the power of Yahweh, the Israelites do not give in to worship God. Instead, they continue to worship the false god Baals. Whatever happens to Elijah ascends into heaven. How exactly does that happen? A flaming chariot comes down and scoots Elijah up, and Elisha, Elijah's successor, says, "Hold on, let me have a double share of your spirit." And what's interesting about that is that that's essentially the Scripture's way of saying everything that Elijah did, Elisha is also going to do, because he now has inherited a double share of Elijah's spirit. So Elijah is taken away in a scene that's in a sense similar to Jesus' ascension story in the Gospel of Luke. What's different, of course, about Elijah's ascension is that Elijah never died. And he's one of 2 people in heaven with a body. Can you guess who the other one is? Mary. Mary, according to Catholic belief, was assumed up into heaven, body and soul. So when you die and you're in heaven and you come across 2 human beings with the body, the woman is the Virgin Mother and the dude, Prophet Elijah. Messianism taught that the Prophet Elijah would return when the true Messiah is on this earth. And the 2 of them were going to work together to bring in this new era of salvation. So Elijah doesn't die because he's going to come back, according to Messianism. As Christians, we believe Jesus is the promised Messiah. Gotta ask you, does Elijah ever come back? The Transfiguration. At the Transfiguration event, Jesus goes up on top of a mountain, and along the sides of Jesus you have Elijah and you have Moses. Why is Moses there? The Jews really like Moses, and you have that whole law imagery, and Jesus trumps the law, and they're giving Jesus a thumbs up, that they support Jesus. My personal opinion is that Moses is there because he never got to go to the promised land, remember? And when he heard that Elijah was probably taking that flaming chariot back down to earth, Moses is like, shotgun! Nevertheless, Elijah does make a cameo in our New Testament. On top of a mountain, transfiguration event, look it up in your New Testament, shows up in the 3 synoptic Gospels. And it proves that Jesus truly is the Messiah. Now, of course, Jews today don't believe Jesus is the Messiah. If you ever have an opportunity to take part in a Jewish Seder prayer, there's a chair left for Elijah. And the Jews are praying that Elijah will return so that this new era of salvation will occur. Of course, as Christians, we already believe that happened at the Transfiguration with the person of Jesus.